Usually, when you check your phone and see a weather alert, there's a very specific expectation, right?
Right. You want precise data.
Exactly. Like it says rain starting at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
and, okay, grab an umbrella.
Yeah, it's neutral. It's just a forecast. It doesn't judge you.
No, it doesn't. And it certainly doesn't demand anything from your soul.
Definitely not.
But, I mean, imagine if your phone buzzed and the alert didn't give you a time or a temperature. Imagine if it just said, the atmosphere is permanently shifted,
Oh, wow.
right? A storm is already here. Choose your shelter.
That's terrifying.
It's not a forecast anymore. It's an absolute declaration. It demands that you react to it. And, that unshakable, ominous weight of an inevitable storm is exactly what Bob Dylan weaponized in 1964 with the Times They Are A-Changin.
He really did.
Welcome to today's deep dive. If you are listening to this right now, you probably already know that our media landscape is loud, it's chaotic, and it's constantly trying to tell you what to think. So today, we are going to look at the underlying mechanics of how that works by decoding a 10-part analytical breakdown of this iconic track. And our mission here isn't just to, rank 60s folk songs.
Yeah, far from it.
We're not doing a standard music history retrospective.
Right. We are looking at how a single, honestly, incredibly stark acoustic recording transformed into this universal, reusable template for societal disruption.
Yes.
What media theorists would call a media frame.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because the central premise of the song is brilliant, precisely because of what it refuses to do. Dylan doesn't stand there and try to persuade you that change should happen. He just announces that a massive historical shift is already underway.
Right, it's a done deal.
Exactly. He presents societal change as this external, unstoppable pressure that's happening, regardless of whether you, the listener, agree with it or not.
What's fascinating here is that to read this text responsibly today, you really have to actively separate the literal words of the song from the decades of retroactive symbolism.
Myth-making.
Exactly, the myth inflation that audiences have piled onto it. I mean, when you hear that melody today, you are instinctively hearing it through the filter of the civil rights movement, the anti-war protests, just everything that defined the late 60s.
It's unavoidable.
It is. But to understand its actual power, we have to strip all of that away and look at the architecture of the sound itself.
Right. We have to ask how it commands so much authority in the first place.
Yeah.
Why does this 3-minute track sound so unignorable?
Yeah.
And that brings us to its tone and its form.
Yeah.
The analysis points out that the song operates almost entirely in the imperative mood.
Yes, and that imperative mood is crucial to its psychological grip.
Right.
If you listen to the grammar of the track, Dylan isn't singing like a private diary entry about his feelings.
No.
And he isn't acting as a detached journalist reporting the news either. He is issuing direct commands.
Come gather around.
Exactly. Admit that the waters around you have grown. He operates in a prophetic tone.
Which is what exactly?
Well, literary analysis defines it as a style that announces a warning from a position of absolute, almost unusual certainty. He is telling you to open your eyes to a reality that has already arrived.
And he does this using incredibly specific, calculated language. I mean, there's a deep sermonic resonance and this really archaic diction to the lyrics.
Oh, heavily.
Dylan is intentionally using vocabulary and phrasing that sounds vastly older than the contemporary pop music of 1964.
He does. He sounds more like an Old Testament prophet than a 22-year-old kid in Greenwich Village.
Which is just a masterful rhetorical mechanism.
It really is. By purposely sounding ancient, the song gains this immense gravity. It taps into the long ballad tradition, communal singing, biblical cadences.
Right.
When you hear a phrase like, "the wheel's still in spin," it echoes old warning literature. It instinctively feels larger than just one guy's opinion.
Yeah, it feels like you are standing on a historical threshold.
Yeah.
It makes me think of an analogy. It's sort of like receiving a highly regent, modern text message on your phone, but the text is written using the vocabulary of a medieval scroll.
That is a great way to put it.
The stark contrast between the immediate urgency of the notification and the ancient weight of the words, it makes it completely unignorable.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you have the refrain itself, the title of the song repeated like a drum beat.
Yeah, over and over.
And we shouldn't mistake that repetition for just a catchy pop hook.
Right.
That repetition acts as a mechanism of authority. Every single time that refrain circles back around for the times they are a-changin', it acts as a definitive verdict.
Like a gavel coming down.
Exactly. It systematically narrows the space for the listener to deny what's happening, and because it's delivered in this very spare folk form...
Just a voice and an acoustic guitar.
Right. The words are completely centered. There's no sweeping orchestra to distract you. There's literally nowhere to hide.
Which gives the song its civic usability. It's highly portable.
Yes.
You can take this spare acoustic structure and easily play it at a sit-in or in a crowded classroom or on a street corner.
Anywhere.
But hold on, let me push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
If you have a 22-year-old standing there with an acoustic guitar, issuing these absolute prophetic commands and passing ultimate judgment on society, doesn't that easily cross the line into arrogant moral grandstanding? Like, who made him the ultimate judge of history?
Oh, it absolutely skirts that line. And honestly, that arrogance is the engine of the song.
Really?
Yeah. Prophetic rhetoric always runs the risk of oversimplifying the world. It draws a hard line in the sand and divides history cleanly into those who get it and those who are lagging behind.
Right.
Now, as a nuanced view of the world, that ignores the complex realities of human motives. But from a sociological perspective, this division is exactly how the song functions as a social tool.
It forces a choice.
Exactly. It deeply energizes the listeners who already sense a turning point. It provides them with absolute moral clarity. And on the flip side, it absolutely irritates or threatens those who feel accused by its posture.
But a verdict implies a defendant, right? You can't issue a sweeping biblical warning to an empty room.
No, you
have to point the finger at someone. And Dylan constructs a very specific audience to put on trial.
He does. He uses direct address, calling out specific social groups in the second person. And by doing this, he takes this broad, abstract, philosophical idea of historical change, and he turns it into a highly structured social drama.
He literally maps out the changing legitimacy of the establishment.
Yes.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't just yell at the man.
Right, it's not generic.
No, he explicitly calls out three main pillars of society. Parents, writers, and critics, and politicians.
Let's decode those pillars.
Yeah, let's do it.
When he addresses mothers and fathers throughout the land, he's targeting generational authority, right? The foundational family structure. He's telling them their sons and daughters are beyond their command.
Which was a massive deal at the time.
Huge. And then, when he calls out writers and critics who prophesize with your pen, he is targeting cultural mediation.
The gatekeepers.
Exactly. The gatekeepers who tell society what constitutes good art or acceptable thought. And finally, the senators and congressmen represent the formal public power and legislative control.
So by addressing these specific clusters one by one, he is essentially serving a blanket eviction notice to the entire establishment.
An eviction notice.
He is saying that absolutely no elite position is protected from the storm. It completely destabilizes the comfort of just being a spectator in the 1960s.
You can't just passively tap your foot to the melody. You are implicated.
But again, I have to challenge the depth of this. Isn't lumping all institutional power into neat, tidy categories like parents and politicians a massive oversimplification of how complex society actually operates?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, real power is a messy web of economic interests, corporate lobbies, silent bureaucracies. It's not just your dad and a congressman.
As a sociological theory, yes, it's entirely incomplete. If you try to use the slurg as a textbook for political science, it totally fails.
Right.
But as a piece of art, it relies on symbolic condensation.
Symbolic condensation.
Yeah, these groups are emblems. Dylan is using them to dramatize what it actually feels like when established gatekeepers begin to lose their cultural monopoly.
Oh, I see.
This rhetorical implication is brilliantly effective because you don't write a protest anthem about middle management bureaucracy.
Well, that wouldn't be very catchy.
Exactly. You write it about the emblematic figures to make structural tension feel personal, urgent, and emotional.
Okay, so he's warning the establishment that their time is definitively up. But that begs the obvious question. What exactly is he demanding they do?
Right.
What is the policy proposal here? And the total lack of specifics on that front leads directly into a massive historical debate about what genre this track actually belongs to. Like, can we even call this a protest song?
That label is heavily debated among historians. When you look at the early 1960s, It's a period defined by the boiling point of the civil rights struggle, massive generational turnover, and the suffocating anxiety of the Cold War.
Yeah, just incredibly tense.
The track brilliantly condenses that entire historical atmosphere. It perfectly captures the psychological mood of a society experiencing immense upheaval.
But, and this is a massive caveat, it completely lacks programmatic politics.
Yes, it does.
There is no target policy mentioned. There are no concrete demands for legislation.
None.
There is no specified institutional endpoint or a 10-step plan for reform.
Exactly. Which is why many cultural historians argue it might be more accurate to call it a historical summons rather than a conventional protest song.
A historical summons.
Right. It announces the threshold of transformation, but it absolutely refuses to give you a detailed political script for what comes next.
It's like a fire alarm going off in your building.
Oh, perfect analogy.
It loudly, aggressively warns you that the structure is burning down, but it completely refuses to point you toward the exit signs.
Yes.
And honestly, if the song is so vague and doesn't offer any tactical specificity, doesn't that diminish its actual value to the boots-on-the-ground activists?
What do you mean?
Well, the people actually out there getting arrested, registering voters, doing the grueling work of organizing, what good is a vague feeling to them?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that vagueness is actually its greatest superpower.
Really?
Yeah. Within any massive social shift, you have what sociologists call a movement ecology. You need different types of tools for different jobs.
Okay.
You absolutely need the tactical organizers figuring out bus routes and legal defense funds, yes. But you also desperately need symbolic framing.
The emotional core.
Right. By providing this broad mythological recognition of change, the song helped millions of fragmented people imagine themselves at a shared turning point. It captured the emotional structure of the transition.
That makes sense.
The song isn't the policy document. It's the cultural framing that makes the policy document feel inevitable.
And that exact lack of 60s specificity, the fact that Dylan didn't tie the lyrics to one specific civil rights bill or one specific election cycle, is precisely what allowed the song to escape its era.
Yes.
It survived into the 21st century because it wasn't chained to the news cycle of 1964.
It's timeless.
Which brings us to the song's incredible afterlife and how it transitioned from a folk anthem into a globally recognized media frame.
This is where we look at canonization and semantic breadth.
Semantic breadth.
Yeah, the phrase, the times they are a-changin, has immense semantic breadth because words like times and changin are essentially empty vessels.
Oh, I see.
What are the times? Well, whatever era you are living in. How are they changing? However you want them to. Because the language is so broad, it can be applied to almost any disruptive event.
You see it everywhere today. Journalists, politicians, corporate PR teams, they use the title in headlines constantly to signal disruption.
Constantly.
They use it for artificial intelligence rollouts, climate pressure, remote work shifts, tech startups, you name it.
And our digital platforms heavily reward this kind of sloganization.
Of course they do.
The algorithm favors recognizable, adaptable language that signals massive urgency without requiring a lot of deep, nuanced explanation.
Right.
The title of the song fits that platform logic perfectly. It's a shortcut to gravitas.
So what does this all mean? To me, it sounds like the song functions almost like open source software.
Open source software.
Yeah. You have this foundational, highly respected code written in 1964, and today, anyone, a journalist writing a think piece, a politician running a populist campaign, or a brand launching a new app can just fork that code.
Ah, I love that.
They download the cultural weight of the song and use it to legitimize their own modern updates.
Yes, they fork the code, but they inject their own specific agenda into it. And this raises an important question about how we consume media today.
Right, because we are getting bombarded with this stuff.
Exactly. Media analysts warn us about the danger of aura borrowing.
Aura borrowing.
Yeah. When a massive tech company or a political campaign borrows this phrase, they aren't just borrowing words. They are borrowing the prestige, the history, and the moral seriousness of the 60s civil rights and folk movements.
They're trying to buy credibility.
Exactly. And the severe risk there is dilution and context loss. A song born from genuine, dangerous social tension risks becoming generic, sanitized background music for corporate rebranding.
Right. It completely flattens the history. It takes a song that was originally meant to challenge the establishment and turns it into a marketing slogan for the new establishment.
Exactly. It's a paradox.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, we also see the song's genuine organic adaptability globally through covers and translations.
The actual music itself.
Yes. The core structure is so strong that it creates immense interpretive plurality.
Meaning people can play it in totally different ways.
Exactly. An older artist singing it today might slow the tempo down, infusing it with a sense of melancholic retrospection, looking back at the ghosts of history.
Yeah.
But a younger punk or hip-hop artist might perform it with raw, aggressive confrontation, aiming it squarely at the current political class.
And when it gets translated into other languages around the world, those translators have to make fascinating, difficult choices about what to preserve.
Oh, absolutely.
Do they keep the literal rhythm? Do they try to capture the archaic biblical flavor? Do they maintain the harsh public address?
It's a huge challenge.
And the fact that it succeeds in so many different cultures proves that the core structural logic of the song, this stark warning against complacency, travels incredibly well across borders.
It does. It is a masterpiece of rhetorical design.
Yeah.
But whether we are encountering the song through a beautifully translated foreign cover or seeing it slapped across a clickbait headline about AI taking our jobs, the challenge remains the same.
Right.
How do we engage with this media today without either blindly worshiping its mythology or cynically exploiting it?
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most crucial takeaway of our deep dive. You, the listener.
Yes, you.
How should you read this song responsibly today? And how does understanding the mechanics behind a 1964 folk song actually change how you scroll through your newsfeed tomorrow morning?
The key is practicing interpretive restraint.
Interpretive restraint.
Yeah. To read it responsibly, we have to deeply appreciate the song's undeniable brilliance in capturing a historical mood, but we must also be fiercely honest about its limits.
We have to acknowledge what it does not do.
Exactly. It does not offer a political program, and it does not solve the problems it highlights.
We have to consciously slow down our interpretation. It's so easy to just accept the prestige of a legendary piece of art and assume it contains all the answers to society's ills.
Too easy.
We have to separate the literal, commanding words on the recording from the decades of retroactive, romanticized myth that have been layered on top of it.
And the reason this matters to you goes far beyond music trivia. Every single day, your screens are bombarding you with the exact same rhetoric of inevitable change.
It's everywhere.
It really is. Understanding how Dylan mechanically constructed authority and framed transition equips you with a vital tool for media literacy. It helps you decode the headlines, the political speeches, and the corporate press releases that are actively trying to shape your perception of reality.
When you see an article framing a controversial new technology, an economic shift, or a political movement as entirely inevitable, you now have the tools to pause.
You can take a breath.
You can step back from the imperative mood of the headline and ask the critical question. Who actually benefits from presenting this specific development as historically unavoidable?
Exactly, because once you recognize the media frame being used, you take away its power to blindly manipulate you.
Right.
You stop being the passive defendant on trial, and you become an active participant in the culture.
Which brings me back to where we started. The weather alert. The unignorable storm.
The storm that's already here.
Yes. This song brilliantly, flawlessly framed historical transition as an external, inevitable pressure. A storm that is already raining down on us, demanding we either start swimming or sink like a stone.
That's the imperative.
But I want to leave you with this final thought to mull over as you go about your day. If we constantly accept this specific framing,
The weather framing?
right, if we always view the changing times like an unstoppable, predetermined weather system sent from above, do we accidentally surrender our own agency to choose how those times actually change?
That is the ultimate question. A storm just happens to you. But a society is something you have to build.
Something to think about the next time someone tells you the times are changing. Thanks for diving deep with us.